Welcome to today's edition of Golden Moments and Golden Memories. This is a film series that we've been doing in conjunction with the 150th anniversary or sesquicentennial of the university. It is sponsored by the University of North Georgia Alumni Association, the North Georgia Choral Cadets, the Women of North Georgia, and the Young Alumni. It is designed so that our viewers can not only get to know some of the individuals that were alum or former faculty or staff members, but it also gives them an opportunity to hear about how things were probably before they were here. So today we're real privileged. I'm excited about the fact that I've actually got two classmates with me. We've got Jim and Jerry Ginn, both from the class of 1964. Both of these guys retired as full Army colonels and had very successful business careers after they retired. Both are also Vietnam War veterans, and we're just so excited to have both of them here. So I'm going to throw it over to you guys. Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're from and where you grew up and how you ended up coming to North Georgia.
Well, we're both, obviously, a lot of things I say would apply to Jerry as well, since we are identical twins. But we were born in a little town, South Georgia, called Sasser, S-A-S-S-E-R, about 11 miles north of Albany. 332 people, as I remember at the time. Obviously 330 now, if nobody else left or got there. But that's where we grew up. We went to high school in a town north of there, Dawson, Georgia, Terrell County High School, and then after graduation we wound up at North Georgia. Now you asked the question why we came to North Georgia. I'm not sure I can tell you why. I'm not sure I know myself, other than it was probably a combination of cost and where our grades actually would allow us to be accepted at. It was certainly different from our high schools, and when we met with people who came out of Atlanta high schools, it was apparent that they were far ahead of us in terms of academics. So that's kind of how we got to here, is that story.
Right.
Came on a Trailways bus with a footlocker.
Really?
Came up here on a Trailways bus and a footlocker.
So when you went home the first time, did you go back by Trailways bus?
I did. And in fact, I can remember one time we tried to hitchhike, yeah, I couldn't say the word.
Yeah.
Hitchhike there, and we got stranded somewhere between North Georgia and Macon. So we had to have somebody come pick us up. But that's where we traveled, and we would change buses in Atlanta. We'd get on the bus in Albany, change buses in Atlanta, and Atlanta to Donovan.
I never knew that. So, but you guys ended up here, I guess, in the fall of 1960, is September or so of 1960.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jerry, anything you want to add to that, or does that pretty much cover?
Pretty much ditto. Since he's my twin, as he said. No changes to what he said.
All right.
We actually lived together one quarter in Sanford Hall, and then they didn't like the blood on the wall, so they separated us and put us with other people, which was probably a very wise move.
Typical brothers that
Absolutely, yeah.
love and fight each other all the time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you graduated, let's talk a little bit about your major, though. What was each of your majors when you were here?
I was pre-med and was taking all those particular courses.
Right.
Actually went down to Medical College of Georgia for an interview. After the interview, I told them no before they could tell me no. It became pretty clear that I was not suited for that.
Yeah.
And so came back and didn't go into the medical field.
Okay, but you finished with a pre-med.
I finished with a major in biology and a minor in chemistry.
Okay.
So,
how about you, Jerry?
I took one of the more difficult courses to get a major in physical education. So, I was not the smartest guy on the block, but I enjoyed it, and I had a major in PE and a minor in history.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's a good combination then.
yep, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the school. And the only reason I'm here is because I needed structure in order to compete.
Yep.
I was not very, what do you call it, energized to do the right thing all the time.
Right.
So I needed the structure, and the cost was also
The
significant.
big figure, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Well, both of you were commissioned. Tell me a little bit about which branch were y'all in?
Well, I think they gave me the closest thing to being a doctor that they could. They gave me medical service corps.
Okay.
So that's the administrative side of the medical department. I stayed there for 26 years, 3 months, 21 days.
Wow.
And my first station was Fort Campbell, Kentucky, but I was not part of the 101st. I was a leg.
All right.
And if you live in Fort Campbell, you don't want to really be a leg. But anyway, there was an air assault, and so one day I walked outside, heard all this noise, and all these helicopters were flying over, and wow, I got to do that. And I went down, took a test, and 2 weeks later I was headed for Fort Walters, Texas,
Oh,
and then to Fort Rucker for the final, and then immediately to Vietnam after that. And I was a medevac pilot, flew what's called dust off.
and what was the nomenclature of the aircraft?
UH-1.
Hughes.
It was a Huey, not the B model, but a little bigger, DRH.
And how long did you do that?
66, 67. So I was over quite early.
And were you attached to a particular division?
57th Medical Detachment, HA, there was a dust-off unit. That was the same one that Pat Brady was with, Kelly.
Right.
Those real heroes.
Right.
We were what we call the originals, the first unit in country.
Okay.
So,
Super. Super. How about Jerry?
Mine was similar, but not quite the same. I initially went infantry. 3 days out of college, I had a platoon at Fort Carson, Colorado. So it was pretty quick, but the school had given me a pretty good foundation for that. After about a year, I figured out I don't have to be this miserable. I can go be in aviation. So I applied for aviation. I didn't get helicopters, I got fixed wing. So I learned to fly the O-1, the Bird Dog,
Bird dog. Yeah.
which they used in Vietnam, and flew the T-41, T-42, the U-8, U-1. So quite a few fixed wings, single engine and twin engine. And then I went to Vietnam, and I was assigned to the 101st, 1967 to 1968. Came back after TET of 68, and they sent me to helicopter school.
Okay.
So went to helicopter school, and then I learned to fly the UH-1. I flew the Cobra, and I flew the OH-58, or Cobra the H-1Z. I flew those three, and while I was doing all this, I commanded an infantry company, commanded a basic training company, I commanded a OH-1 Bird Dog company in Vietnam, and then I commanded the 116th Helicopter Company and the 173rd Helicopter Company. So
Wow.
I had 5 different commands at the company level.
Wow.
Yeah, I know,
That's
unusual,
that's a very unusual.
very unusual. But that's what I did up until the time about he's talking, so I'm gonna break it there.
All right. So after Vietnam for you.
well, you noticed a trend in us that I normally led the way and he's following in aviation. And so it kind of continued that way the rest of our career. But I guess out of Vietnam, they sent me to Korea because he was back on his other tour. And then it was just medical operations, medical administration. For the rest of the time I was there, it was, to me, a great career. I loved every minute of it. I don't know how I would have done, copying Jerry's word on structure.
Right.
I needed that structure. I don't think I would have done well on the outside at that time.
Right.
Maturity came later. And so that's the way it went the rest of the time. So it was great.
And you continued to progress through rank.
Yeah, I made all my ranks on time. and I didn't get anything early, didn't get anything late. Was just lucky to be on time with it.
As I recall, somewhere along the way, you were up in the Pentagon, weren't you?
Well, I did. I went to. They sent me to Baylor University. It was in San Antonio. Got my master's in hospital administration at the time. Did my residency at Fort Benning, and then did a stint as the administrator at Eisenhower Medical Center, and then battalion command, and then up to Washington to work in the Pentagon. So it was always different. I probably have the record, I guess, I don't know if it's a record, I'm probably the only person that ever has been turned down who requested a branch transfer to infantry. Okay? And they were very wise in turning me down. But I requested a branch transfer because that's that medical service corps now. And they fortunately came back and said, this officer does not know what he's doing. That, you know.
And where was that, when you were still a lieutenant, or?
No, it was actually, I think it was before flight school. It was my first year of getting into the service, and
Right.
I had lots of friends that were over the airborne side of post, and I was
Yeah.
on the leg side, and,
Yeah.
you know, I gotta get out of here, but fortunately I did. They didn't let me.
So Jerry, how about your rank promotions?
Me,
Yeah,
let me back up, I'll try to make this short. But when I went to Vietnam the first time and was assigned to the 101st, I was flying bird dogs, which is a VR, visual reconnaissance.
right.
I was assigned, after a month or so there, I was assigned to lead an air assault and to do VR on the way in. They're behind me.
Okay.
So we were doing that. I had a back seat with me from the artillery, and we ran up on the typical Vietnamese tripod 51s. They have the big machine guns
Right.
and 3 tripods. And we ran up on a set of those, and the infantry had already disembarked, or whatever you call it, on the ground, and they were coming up through a banana field, plantation. And we tried to call them because they were coming right up the hill where that machine gun was. We couldn't contact them, could not. The only thing I could think of to do was to make noise, and that means you gotta get shot at.
Yeah.
So I did, and we went round and around that machine gun place while they were shooting at us, and finally the infantry caught on, and then we left and went back doing what we were doing. I didn't think much of it at the time, but the next morning I got called to the commanding general's office in the 101st, and I came in and he said, "You gotta go home." What? I said, "Yeah, you've been recommended for the Congressional Medal of Honor."
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I, whoa, I don't know what's going on. So anyway, I didn't get it,
Right.
but they were recommending it for us, so that was a cool
Sure. Sure.
thing. Anyway, after that, my commands, kind of like him, I had 3 companies, aviation-wise, and then I had a basic training battalion at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and then I went and I commanded the Combat Aviation Brigade, 3rd Armored Division in Europe, which was pretty neat, a lot of people. After I left command of the Aviation Brigade, I was given another command in Atlanta, Georgia, the 2nd Recruiting Brigade. We had 13 states that we were responsible.
You were at Fort Gillem at that point, as I recall.
Fort Gillem.
Yeah.
And then after Fort Gillem, I was the Chief of Staff for Recruiting Command at Fort Sheridan. After that, I went to a year or so tour at the Pentagon and retired.
Got out. Well, let's back up a little bit and talk about your time when you were here on campus. Of course, we're filming this sitting in what used to be the president's home, and obviously the campus has changed in a lot of things. But anything stick out in your mind as far as professors or military staff or stories about your time as a cadet that you'd like to share?
Well, I lived in Sanford Hall, Barnes Hall, and Gilead Hall. And other than that 1 quarter where he and I tried to live together, it was pretty uneventful in terms of living. I do remember some interesting people. Sometimes I can catch their names, sometimes I can't. But I remember walking into an English class, and I think Essery,
Mr. Essery.
okay, he made an announcement that because you know, when you get here, they get you up at 4 and you have to take all these placement tests
Yeah.
and your scores and whatever. And Essery made the announcement to the class that based on your guys' scores, 3 of you should pass this class. Well, that was on day 1.
Right.
At the end of the class, I'm not sure who all passed, but I was one of those 3 that didn't. Okay? I did not pass that class. And I think there were several of them, like in German, when I walked into my German class, they had written up on the board, Guten Morgen, Herr Ginn. Now, I don't know why he chose me,
Right.
but it went downhill from there.
Yeah.
And so I think some of those guys gave me D's just so I wouldn't come back, you know, and get me out of here.
Well, in biology, I guess you had, what, Mr. Sanders and,
Yeah, I did have, yeah, remember him quite well. Anyway, I had all those up there. I can remember being in the lab dissecting and whatever, and looking out on the parade field, and my brother would be lining off a baseball thing for his final exam or something, his PE major.
well, that's a quick side note. I was also in Mr. Essery's class, and as I recall, there was 73% or something like that of the freshman class failed English 101, and they changed the rules because you had to pass 3 different parts. You had to pass a spelling, a punctuation, and a grammar part.
It's funny you mentioned spelling because that's another one of my successes that I was put in remedial spelling, if you remember that.
I was there.
I was there too. And you had to make 100 on one of the weekly tests in order to get out.
Right.
And I was in remedial spelling until they disbanded the course.
Yeah.
That's my claim to fame. Okay. And my mother was a first grade school teacher and taught phonics. Sorry.
Oh, well. All right, Jerry, what, you remember anything, I guess you were with what, Coach Oddie and some of the guys? Madeline?
That name just flipped when you said it, so
Yeah.
I could not remember. I got a little dementia. I don't remember people by name, but the history lady department, do you remember who that was up there?
That's not coming to me at the moment, but.
Anyway, I don't remember the people, but I just remember that the PE, as he said, and the history, and I really enjoyed the school.
Right.
Excellent. I mean, I actually made the dean's list more than I didn't.
Right.
So
Well, in PE, I guess that's,
it's not hard.
that's right.
I did play basketball on the college team 1 year.
Right,
We won 1 game that year.
okay.
And we didn't have that good of a team, and probably one of the reasons was I was playing center.
Oh,
When you're 6 foot only and playing center and jump to get 6'8", that's not cool.
as I recall, actually, at that time, which was the academic class of 60, 61, and the 61, 62 were the only years we had varsity basketball, and they discontinued for a number of years before it came back, and now we're back in NCAA and doing very well.
Well, let me put a disclaimer in. Everything I'm telling you is as I remember it.
Right.
The truth may be lying somewhere between that and actual, okay? So, but we had a great group of guys on the team. We played hard. It's just that we had other teams that were playing hard.
Well, what I'm hearing both of you say, which is not unlike what I have heard others talk about, that while we may have had some issues along the way, academic or otherwise, the school actually prepared us for our time in the military in particular, how to understand things, how to lead in particular, and it's proven over and over, and certainly in the case of you two guys.
Well, you're absolutely correct, and I heard it already today from somebody. The thing I think it gave me more than anything else was the ability to make a decision to believe in that decision and carry through with it, particularly in business.
Right.
But even as any platoon leader or a tank commander or whatever, like in Vietnam, and you're the aircraft commander and you're flying at 2,000 feet going to a combat assault, and you make the decision after whatever that you're going from there to the ground. You've got 3 other people, another pilot, a medic, and the crew chief. They no longer have any decision. They become riders, not deciders.
Right.
And so you make that decision. They all want you to make the right decision. Unfortunately, I did because I'm still here.
Right.
But the decision ability, I think, was what I give North Georgia and the military great credit for.
Sure. It's a great leadership place.
It's
School
absolutely
continues to excel. And I started to interject a while ago, when you were talking about admission and stuff, the school has grown so much on academic. I don't think they would have let any one of the 3 of us in.
Without a
Couldn't get in today's environment, but the school has gone on to do wonderful things. It's hard not to find an area that you can't brag on as far as North Georgia.
But what they did for me, as with him, I was prepared for what I was gonna do. I mean, it wasn't like I heard new terms or new things, because North Georgia had taught me
We done it.
what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
So I was ready for it.
We spent the morning before this with the College of Business
Okay.
and Kim, and it was just a wonderful experience. Great facility. It seems more like a business atmosphere than it does an academic atmosphere.
Right.
And I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Very worthwhile.
Jim's referring to the new Mike Cottrell School of actually College of Business and Technology or Innovation, and it's one of the newer buildings on campus, and it's just as you come in off of Chestatee Street on the right. And it's a very impressive building, and if you get on campus, make sure you find time to go in and tour it. Well, let's jump a little bit after military life and into business life. Jim, I think you kind of led the way on that. Why don't you tell us?
Well, I retired in September of '90 and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Well, after spending 26 years in the Army Medical Department, I said, well, I've obviously got to go into the medical field. And so there was a position open for the hospital administrator in Milledgeville, for the hospital in Milledgeville. And so I went through that process. I had never gone through an interview process before in the military, really. And so it came down to me and one other guy as the final 2 people. I didn't get it. He did, and I will tell you, they made the best choice. He was the better candidate than I was. And so after that, I said, well, what else am I going to do? So I turned into what I felt I knew and was comfortable, and that was government contracting. And so I got a job with a government contractor initially up in Massachusetts, and then from there I got a job with another contractor in Augusta, Georgia. And then that contractor in Massachusetts picked me up for a job in Leavenworth, Kansas. I tell everyone I was in Leavenworth for 3 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, not the big house, but the other one. And then I got a call one day from Wally Johnson. Wally Johnson was a general officer in Medical Service Corps. We only had one, and he got that slot. And he was starting up a company, and he called me from Atlanta and said, hey, I'm thinking of starting a company up because I work for him in the Pentagon. He said, wouldn't you like to come down and be part of that? Well, hey, getting out of Kansas back to Georgia was a no-brainer for me.
Right.
But I had to go on unemployment for 18 months because he wasn't hiring. He was just saying, you want to help me start a company.
Right.
And so, yeah, but it was great. I learned so much helping Wally and getting that company off the ground. And then while I was doing that, I was also establishing my own network. And everybody kept telling me, well, why don't you do your own company? Why don't you start your own company? You got all that. And so in March, I incorporated in '97, and I started operations March the 1st of 2000. Started out my company with a contract of 2 people, of which I was one.
And that's called the
Ginn Group.
Ginn Group.
Right. Well, I couldn't think of a
Group of
better
2 at the
name, yeah.
moment.
Couldn't think of a better name, so it was the Ginn Group. And that's how I started my company, and we just celebrated our 25th year of being incorporated. And so the 26 years in the military, 10 years with everybody else, and now 25 as part of the Ginn Group. And so it has been a exciting 25 years.
Sure.
And then Jerry joined the company, and then he and I ran it together for 20, 21 years, something like that. And then Jerry's now doing his own thing, and I still have the Ginn Group. So it's been wonderful.
Can you, I don't want you to disclose stuff you shouldn't disclose, confidential or anything, but give us a feel for the kinds of businesses that Ginn Group does.
Well, we've been a lot of places, and when I first started, we had 7 different business lines, way too many. We pared down over the years we have facility support services, like whatever a DPW would do for a city, we do for Fort Knox, we did for the Naval Support Activity in Panama City, and for Warner Robins, etc. And then we also do information technology, and we also do logistics, warehousing, etc. But a new thing we've just started, I've started an engineering division as part of the Ginn Group. And so we're very excited about that. We have working right now with 3 companies that do nuclear work where we're involved with that. And we've recently designed a battery operated luggage system for Gulfstream type aircraft. And so that's an exciting thing that we could do. I did do a excursion into a manufacturing operation. I started aerospace manufacturing. And how that started, if you don't mind, I was at a funeral, and I walked out in the garage, and the guy said he was talking about manufacturing and aerospace manufacturing, and he kept saying, you know, I got all this business I can get, it's government business. He said, but I don't know anything about doing government business. I said, whoa. And so we got together, started up a business in Georgia, down in Noonan, and then after that I bought Alabama Aerospace over in Opp, Alabama. I moved Georgia to Alabama. We tried to get it started, and I had a fire in the facility. It was not a large fire, but it closed down the facility for 3 months. I had 3 multi-year, multi-million-dollar contracts. They had to pull them because we couldn't meet deliverables. I understood that, and we just never financially were able to recover from that. So that has been a failure in my life, but it was a good attempt.
I don't know whether you can share any of this or not, but I remember one time you told me about an incident where you were trying to help with an exercise of training troops, and you had to carry some immigrant type of folks and some weapons to.
We
Afghan people.
Afghan, okay.
We were doing training. And what we did was citizens on the battlefield training many years ago when we were still deploying troops over to Iraq, etc. And so our job was to hire the language-speaking people. We had the costumes, and we had 125 AK-47s. And if you told one person who spoke, who was Iraqi, he knew where all the rest of them lived. And so we had an idea. We had to put 200 people at Fort Drum, New York. 100 people from us, and another company was doing 100. And I told the guy, I said, have 100 people show up here on Monday morning. And that was about 2 weeks out. And so on Monday morning, 2 weeks, 100 people showed up in the lobby of the building. It was okay, except I didn't tell anybody else in the building that there was going to be 100 people. And so we were doing a lot of frantic phone calls at the time, but we got through that, and then we had a convoy of, I think it was 10 vehicles plus a U-Haul carrying all the ammunition and uniforms and AK-47s and whatever. And they went up, everything went back, and they came back, everything was fine. The only thing I found out later that the person driving the U-Haul with all the weapons and all that stuff was one of the Iraqis who didn't speak English. And so we can imagine if they got caught speeding, I'd still be answering questions. But we had some wonderful experiences there at Camp Atterbury and at Fort Drum, over the Marine bases. We did a lot of training for the Air Force as well.
Well, that sounds like it's been a very successful career that's allowed you and Jerry both some nice income in your retirement time of the year is.
It has been tremendous, and that's primarily, I guess, one reason I went into business, is that I looked at what I had and what I had amassed over time and whatever, and told myself that I'm not going to be able to retire in the manner to which I wanted to become accustomed, working for somebody else.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the impetus to start the company.
Well, let me ask you a little bit. I don't want to put you guys on the spot here, but I know that y'all have both, over the years, particularly as the Ginn Group, have been very supportive of the school and have had scholarships that you have.
We've been doing a scholarship, I think, since about 2011.
Okay.
And we give 2 partial scholarships every year.
Right.
Just recently, they had the scholarship gala, and we came
Right.
up and we did that. And we've been very proud and very happy we were able to support that.
Right.
And I guess we've done some other, about funding some rooms,
Right.
you know, getting your name up there
Right.
above the room. And of course, the room we funded it will say James Ginn, it will not say Jerry,
Right.
okay? I just wanna make that
Little
clear.
brotherly
'Cause,
joke
he's
here.
trying to get me to change it and say, Jim and Jerry, I know.
Well, the university certainly appreciates the support that the Ginn Group has provided, and I know that even today, when you mentioned being down, you're continuing the conversations about how you might could assist the university with exposure for students and potentially even some internships along the way. Again, the times that we were here at in those days, North Georgia College, there were a lot of things different than you see on today's campus. Obviously, we wore the military, and we lived military and those kind of things. Anything else that that you recall that we did then that they don't do today that's a little unique?
Well, I don't see it, because I haven't been here to look to see it, but I don't know if the attention to detail and dress is as strict now as it was back then. That seemed to be a thing, spit marks, polish, creases, and how you sit in a chair in the classroom so you didn't break crease.
And how you put your pants on?
Yeah, those types of things, which I guess become near and dear to your heart because you went through them.
Right.
It's kind of like going to Vietnam. I'm glad I did it, and I sure want to do it again.
Still wear starched shirts.
Absolutely, I see that. Yeah, I see that. And in fact, we were just talking about with the business center. We ran into Chris Mitchner, General Mitchner's son, who was there, and Jerry particularly remembered Marvin as a spit shine guy. Okay? He was everything was sharp, creased, everything, and that's Mitchner's legacy, so to speak.
He's referring to retired Brigadier General Marvin Mitchner, who was a part of our class, and his son is now part of the staff here working with the cyber initiative. That's again one of the shining lights at the school.
Well, I thought Marvin had made 2 stars, but evidently you say he's 1 star.
Just one.
Sorry, Marvin. Whatever.
Yeah. We had a great class, and it turns out that next year will be our 60th reunion year, which we're looking forward to, and we had a good turnout at the 50 and 55, so I think we'll do it again at 60. Well, before we wrap up, guys, I wanted to give each of you an opportunity. I know I've been asking a lot of questions, but if there's anything that we haven't talked about, anything that you would like to share about any topic, about the school or your military career or your business or family, anything you wanted to share, why don't we take a few minutes before we wrap things up?
Well, let me just mention one thing on the military. I just wanted, it's interesting, is I actually medevaced out of Hobo Woods a North Georgia cadet that was in my platoon here.
Wow.
And so when they were loading him, I said, that guy looks familiar. And I asked the medic to ask him if he was, yeah, North Georgia.
Wow.
And he was actually in my platoon
Small
when I
world.
was a junior, yeah.
Small world.
Yeah, yeah.
Small world.
Jerry, I'll let you go first, that way I can follow you.
Well, you didn't ask me what I did after I retired.
Oh, okay, my fault.
That's okay. No, I wouldn't ask me either. It's not very, not very intelligent stuff. But what I did do was able to do Wells Fargo alarm for a couple of years, and then thanks to my, God bless him, my brother took me in his company, paid me a good salary, and took care of me for 20 years, and I really appreciate it, because I don't know what I'd have done without him, because he's the smart one. I just do all the grunt work and the command stuff. I didn't get the staff. Wish I had. I'd probably talk a lot better than I do now. But essentially, this place here made me what I am and continued to be today. I wouldn't have functioned without North Georgia. It just wouldn't have happened. I needed this place, and it was good. And I thank the Lord for it being here.
Well, amen. That's good, that's good. Anything else you want to talk about, anything?
I don't really know, I would agree with my brother that I'm a wonderful person. And I
Well, I
appreciate.
ain't just said that.
No, North Georgia is an experience that I will never forget and don't want to. It was really good for me. It was what I needed at the time, and so it served its purpose. I hope I am able to carry on for that and present a good image for North Georgia for the rest of my life, as best I can. And so I would urge anyone to come to North Georgia.
Yeah. But we all do our bit to recruit. What we give your company a plug again, anybody that wants to find out more about the Ginn Group, that's the Ginn Group.
Right. Just go to GinnGroup.com.
Okay. And you're located down in Peachtree City, right?
Located in Peachtree City, and just call, ask for Jim Ginn. I'd be glad to talk to anybody. Would love to have students come down and visit the company, and if they want to see how the government contractor does business.
Right.
How do we make bid, no bid decisions? How do we do marketing? How do we do government financing, HR, whatever? Just want to spend some time with us. I'd love to take you to lunch.
Okay.
Come on down.
Sound like a deal. Gentlemen, we appreciate so much you coming and being a part of this series. It's always invigorating to me to hear stories from anybody, but particular stories from classmates and people that I appreciate and admire. So for those of you who are watching, please make sure that you tune in and watch this episode. It should be posted on the University North Georgia Alumni Association website, along with YouTube and a couple of others of their social media, to enjoy this. And thanks so much. Remember to continue to support the University of North Georgia, and go Nighthawks.